What are the best staples and hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh right now? Big dogs, it is a new ban list, which means it's a new meta, which means you need to figure out what are the best cards in the game to beat those decks. And today, I got you. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with y'all, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day, phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. So the staples and hand traps tier list. 2 tier list, 1 video. Today we're going to be analyzing how powerful these commonly played Yu-Gi-Oh cards are against some of the most popular decks in the game. In post-ban list, what I've been noticing is that some of the most powerful decks in the game are Memento, simply because of Pascal winning that YCS, and of course, it's one of the best decks. Blue Eyes White Dragon, not only is it incredibly cheap, it also did not get hit by the ban list. Yugioh and Malice are still solid Yu-Gi-Oh decks that you can play and still have success with. Also, they're getting support, so the dream is not dead for those particular decks. And then, of course, there's still some other really popular decks like Mermel and Labyrinth that players are labbing with, no pun intended. And in this particular video, we're going to be talking about the most commonly played cards to be able to stop as many strategies as possible and counter the meta. So of course, this guide is ever growing and ever changing, but the best part about this is that we already know what to expect from this format. So let's go ahead and start off with the hand traps. Effect negation is one of the core components for Yu-Gi-Oh! Being able to stop your opponent's powerful monster effects, and that's what the first 4 hand traps are going to identify which ones are the most powerful in this meta. To be honest with you, not much has changed here. Infinite Impermanence is still the best hand effect negation in the game. Even though Triple Tactics Talents is still limited, that is also one of the best cards in the game still. It's limited for a reason, and this card not only still pays respect to that in Called by the Grave, it also gets your point across while serving as a great board breaker Yu-Gi-Oh card. Effect Veiler is incredibly good, with the only drawback being a monster effect that can only be activated during the main phase. Herald of Orange Light would be a lot higher if every deck can use it, but unfortunately you have to play a fairy strategy to take advantage. It's really good that Eva is off the ban list completely, but I'm not sure what Yu-Gi-Oh strategies can take advantage. Ghost Warner and Moonlit Chill would 100% be situational. Like I said before, effect negation is still king in this Yu-Gi-Oh meta. Against Blue Eyes, you're going to want to stop that Link 1 monster. Against Malice, it's actually stronger to stop Dormouse and White Rabbit again. And against Yugioh, you can now confidently stop their normal summoned Yugioh effect, and oftentimes they may not be able to get into the dual drive, but that's also another great card to hit. With that being said, our bomb hand traps cards that make a huge impact, Droll and Nibiru are easily really good cards. Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood is the first hand trap into the Abyss, and Dimension Shifter, it's also low-key hand trap into the Abyss, but I'm gonna put it in situational. Now, the reason why Droll and Lockbird and Nibiru don't get that S grade here is because there are decks that are specifically designed to counter these cards. Like I said before, both Memento and Labyrinth are really good against these cards, and there's quite a few other dangerous decks in the meta that can compete against these particular hand traps. But when these cards do pop off, they're almost game-wrecking. I personally think that they're in a more healthy spot than they've ever been before, because these cards aren't the end-all be-all against every single Yu-Gi-Oh deck, but still make huge impact splashes where they need to be. Dimension Shifter is in situational because it's limited. I think the numbers games that you're going to have to roll with, 11% chance of opening Dimension Shifter in your opening hand is not worth the justification, but you know, there's going to be some players that are going to try to figure some way. Next up are the Molcharmy cards. And easily here, Molcharmy Flawless is really good. I wouldn't put it in must play just yet. Meowls is situational. Perilia is our first side-worthy card. Now, the reason why Molcharmy Meowls only gets an A grade instead of an S grade is the same reason that Nibiru and Droll get the same grade. They can be really good against the correct deck, but there are way too many decks like Memento and Labyrinth running around where this card is completely useless. The more we're starting to live into a format where Molcharmy is accessible, the more I'm starting to realize that the card is actually decent for the game. It also helps that the card literally has the exact same errata that I've been screaming about for Maxi for years. Moving on, our high impact hand traps. Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring for the 18th millionth year in a row is must play, and so are the Dominus cards, but the new contender here is Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. That is actually a huge move and a bold take for Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. While Ash Blossom and the Dominus cards should be in your deck if you can play them every single time, they not only stop some of the best cards in the game, and in certain situations, they can really hurt your opponent, like using it on Wishes for the Eyes of Blue against Blue Eyes, or using it on Big Welcome or Welcome Labyrinth against Labyrinth. Ghost Ogre is a whole nother animal right now because there are secretly so many cards in the game that Ghost Ogre completely jacks. It's really good against Fiendsmith Desiree because Desiree needs to stay on the field with its equipped cards to be able to negate face-up cards. It's amazing because Blue Eyes because of True Light, and it has so many niche applications where it can destroy a face-up spell or trap card on the field or get rid of a body that was once in your way. I think that this card is literally insane and you should strongly consider playing it in your hand trap lineup. Even with Dimension Shifter being banned, the graveyard removal cards are okay. Psycho Reader is definitely one of those hand traps into the abyss alongside of DD Crow, but Ghost Spell is actually really strong. I would also say that Skullmeister is situational, and Ghost Bell is another one of those niche hand traps that fits so many crazy good roles, stopping the Fiendsmith monsters or even a Mitsurugi cards from reviving themselves from the graveyard, preventing a clutch Bestial monster from being summoned, stopping big Memento plays and the Welcome Labyrinth cards. And don't forget, it can stop cards like Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragon, as well as the Blue Eyes Link 1 and a host of other cards. It has its opportunities, and you should strongly consider at least siding the card. It can be really good and will become even more powerful as the format goes on. Now, the other cards are summonables and banish management cards. The Bestial monsters are still really good, especially if you're playing a deck that can benefit from them. Artifact Lancia is easily a side-worthy card alongside of Chaos Hunter, and here's where things get interesting because I think that Contact C is situational, but I think Retaliating C is side-worthy. I would put the Gamma cards into Hand Trap into the Abyss, and I think that Fantastical Dragon Phantasme has lost a little bit of rank and isn't situational. Now, these were a lot of cards to group into one category, but the biggest reason why we still play the Artifact Lancia and Chaos Hunter is because we still respect Malice. The Malice numbers overall might be a little down coming into this format, but we know that this deck is going to shoot back up, especially considering that in the OCG, Malice has Malice P Dormouse at 1, and it's still a top contending Yu-Gi-Oh deck. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Raizio completely disappeared and it became a tier 0 format for Malice players. Which is also the reason why I put Fantastical Dragon Phantasme at situational. If your area has a ton of Malice, this is another card that can help you capitalize on plays. And also Retaliating C is crazy strong for a couple of reasons. Malice players, you should strongly consider playing Retaliating C. This card is your Dimension Shifter that's a little bit more fair, and the best part about it is that it helps you check strategies like Memento. But the next big thing about Retaliating C is that this card is going to be crazy against Dragontail, while also having the ability to be able to search any insect monster from your deck to your hand. People want a hand trap response to Memento, and there you have it. The miscellaneous hand traps, though, they all pretty much fell into comparison. People want a hand trap that can actually stop memes, and here you have it with that Secret Sauce. That and Molchummy Meows are pretty decent cards, but moving on to the miscellaneous hand traps, they're not really much to be excited about. To keep it so honest with you, all of these are hand traps into the abyss. Do not play these cards. I mean, there's an argument for Seravis because there is a lot of targeting into the game, but unless you're Voiceless Voice, I wouldn't waste my time. But now that we have that out of the way, what are going to be the top staples here? Let's go ahead and start off with the Spell and Trap removal. Spell and Trap removal cards were getting hot and heavy at the end of the format, and I don't expect it to change. While I think that Cosmic Cyclone is situational, I think that Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster are fairly playable cards. This is pretty good against Blue Eyes, especially if they don't go super full combo or preemptively summon Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon, but secretly, some of the best decks in the game use really powerful Spell and Trap cards. But let's go ahead and finish up with the Spell and Trap removal and then move on to the negation cards. Twin Twisters is staple those divorce papers together. I don't think it's a terrible card. It just requires too many resources for what it does. And speaking of said resources, Droplet is still that card. Dark Ruler No More is in staple these divorce papers together. Chalice is in situational, and I would actually put Lance in the same spot. Now, Dark Ruler No More isn't a terrible Yu-Gi-Oh card. In fact, I think that it's worlds better than Twin Twisters. The only problem with Dark Ruler No More is that it does erase your opponent's board, but The drawback is that you can inflict damage. That can be really huge when you're going against some of the current decks in Yu-Gi-Oh right now, especially considering that they can still respond with their card effects in hand and graveyard. It isn't a smooth transition. While Droplet allows you to be able to activate during either player's turn and in certain critical parts of the game. I think Forbidden Chalice is a lot stronger than what people are giving it credit, simply because it can be activated any given time. I also think that Forbidden Lance is going to be terribly insane. And you'll start to see why I think that this card is going to be really strong as we build out the Staples tier list. But moving on for the rest of our cards, the Black Goat Laughs is a very playable card. Solemn Judgment I would put in sideworthy alongside of Solemn Strike. Dino Wrestler Pankratops is a situational card. Metal Ronus is still very playable. And Evenly Matched, Evenly Matched is pretty good sideworthy. Now there's a couple of spots that probably make your head scratch. Black Goat Laughs being played in almost strictly decks like White Forest and Pearly does probably make you think a little bit different, but that's just because those decks take really good advantage of it. In fact, any deck can use the Black Goat Laughs, and it's an incredible card when you do. Evenly Matched is secretly one of the best cards in the game, is because while there's a lot of effect negation, there isn't a ton of spell and trap negation. If you use this card wisely, you can wipe your opponent's entire board, and the Solemn cards pretty much stay in sideworthy because they're incredible when you know you're going first. Now the next group of spell cards are going to be very similar to the monster removal cards, and it's simply because they are. Ultimate Slayer is sideworthy, Super Polymerization is a top staple, Raigeki is situational. I think that Super Polymerization is simply one of the best spell cards in the game right now because there isn't really too many situations where the card doesn't hit. Trading two of your opponent's bodies for either a draw one or target protection through Garua Wings of Resonant Life or Mud Dragon of the Swamp is kind of crazy. But the best thing about Super Polymerization is that if you are playing a capable deck, using it to be able to dodge your opponent's card effects is even stronger. Ultimate Slayer is incredible, but I would say it's a better sideboard card, and Raigeki is situational because those floaty effects do floaty things. But on to the Kaiju summonable-like cards. In this particular tier list, I condensed down Winged Dragon of Ra and Sphere Mode into just one Kaiju because they're all going to the same spot, staple those divorce papers together, alongside of Alpha Master of the Beast and Divine Karna Kirakara. I genuinely want to put these cards in situational because I think in the right situation, they can be great cards. But the problem with that is that the situation itself is so situational, it doesn't make it worth it. Yes, Kirakara can be great against Yugioh if you can tribute off their detonator. But a lot of times, if they get their value and the effect of Eclipse, which they should have in rotation, you're cooked. It can almost be said for the exact same thing with Malice, and with Memento and Labyrinth not having enough effects to even justify playing these cards. It really isn't a great card at this second. I think Alpha Master of the Beast has got that dog in him, but unfortunately it's the wrong type of dog for Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Moving on to those powerful quick play spell cards, the book cards. And this is where things get deadly. Both of the book cards, Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse, are top staples. These are some of the best spell cards in the game. But if we're going to talk about some of the best spell cards in the game, let's just go ahead and talk about them. Call by the Grave is still the top staple, alongside of Triple Tactics Talent and Crossout Designator. Probably the only time I'll give Crossout Designator its flowers, because in a format where players are playing all of the same cards, this card is crazy. It makes sense while it's at one. With one card engines now being a thing, that plus a Crossout almost justifies your combo. And the exact same thing can almost be said about Triple Tactics Talent. Punishing hand traps has always been this card's thing. And now with it being limited, hand traps are more powerful. But that doesn't make this card less powerful. It makes it more impactful. That's why it got limited. And the same thing could be said for Called by the Grave for obvious reasons. But why do you say the book cards are so high? Because they good. Oftentimes, taking that -1 to be able to flip your card face down to resolve its effect can be crucial. But the versatility of the book cards should not be underestimated. Flipping your opponent's cards face down to prevent them from Exceed summoning with it or linking with it is huge. The inherent value for these cards is so massive, players have been playing 3 copies of each inside of their deck, which is the reason why cards like Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster are now very playable. You see, it all comes full circle on a staple. Lastly, to wrap up this tier list, Change of Heart is easily a situational card. Triple Tactics Thrust is sideworthy. Enemy Controller is, I don't even want to tell you about Enemy Controller. This card's actually sideworthy. It's really good. And Salesman, I would say, is situational. Change of Heart also has a similar problem than what we were talking about with the Kaijus. It's going to be really hard to take an important card. And Salesman, I think, is actually your next copy of Triple Tactics Talent Crossout Designator called by. The only difference is the card has to be proactive instead of reactive. So trying to find out the exact hand trap is a little much unless you're playing a 1-card combo deck that loses to one particular card. That's situational in its name. Enemy Controller, I think, also is one of those crazy good cards because it does have a little bit of Change of Heart, but also a little bit of Book of Moon. Sometimes even switching the battle position of an opponent's monster is huge, or taking control of it during the opponent's turn so they can't use it for their nefarious work is even bigger. I genuinely think that little lightning bolt icon is what separates Enemy Controller from being a trash card to an absolutely amazing Yu-Gi-Oh card. But Maurice, my dog, go ahead and show them what the hand traps look like one more time, a solid row of healthy cards, and then turn around and show them what those staples look like, because those are some of the best cards in the game to help you be able to succeed. Well, class, I don't really got much else to say other than make sure you do your homework. You don't want to be a Slifer slacker. You want to be an overachieving obelisk. But more importantly, check out these videos so I can catch you on the next one.